Welcome, folks, to this week's edition of Tech Sales Advice. I am, of course, your host, Chris White, and my guest just tried to hide from the camera. Maybe he was checking on something. Folks, this is the LinkedIn Live program for technical sales professionals and technical sales leaders. And I want to remind you, folks, these are live conversations. This is not recorded. It is 12 noon here, just outside of Washington, D.C. Today's guest happens to be almost a neighbor. He's also in the DC area. And I could not be more excited for today's conversation. And by the way, folks, I've said this before, I'll say it again. These conversations are unscripted, unrehearsed, and unpredictable. So I'm never really sure where we're going to go, but I have a pretty good idea of what we're going to talk about, at least what we're going to focus on today. My guest is the author of a book that I happen to have in my hands here, called Most People Don't and Why You Should. He's also the host of one of the world's most successful podcasts, also called Most People Don't. He's a TED Talk speaker, international trainer. His name is Bart Berkey, and he's given up an hour or so to join us today. Bart, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I am well. I am well, Chris. And I just wanted to see if I could make you smile by just dropping off of the screen for a moment. And I did. What I love about what you just shared is the live element of it. I was watching someone not that unrecently, let's say within the last 1 month or two, and they did not reference the time or the date. So today is August 7th at 12:02 p.m. Eastern. Because all of these people were putting notes in the chat box, in a chat box, in a chat box. And this gentleman was supposedly broadcasting from Hawaii, and it should have been dark when he was doing it. Yet he showed us a screen outside, moved his camera outside, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and it was misleading. And I didn't like that. So everything that he said, even if the content was good, I didn't believe him because he was trying to pass it off like it was live. So I love that you're doing it live, Chris. And hello to all of your followers and listeners. Excited to chat.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you here, Bart. And unfortunately, you and I have not yet met in person. So I know we're going to make that happen here sooner than later. Bart and I were introduced by a common friend. And it is just amazing how similar our stories are, how similar our businesses are now. And folks, by the way, as a reminder, we don't see who's out there. So if you do care to say hello, please feel free to do so. If you have any questions for Bart, I encourage you to ask. We're going to talk as much as we can about sales, but Bart has so many interesting things to share and talk about. Who knows where we're going to go. So Bart, before, and what I'm going to do, Bart, is I'm just going to pick a few places in your book, and we're just going to sort of randomly see where that takes us.
Yeah, of course.
Before we do that, go ahead. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to share, because I know many of your listeners are sales tech, sales advisors in sales, want to get into sales, or have an aspect of wanting to learn more about what you talk about, Chris. My background comes really from the world of hospitality sales. Let's just say over 30 years of providing sales and service to customers. Last 16 years with Ritz-Carlton, I was a sales and service trainer for them. And now with my own company, Most People Don't. When the pandemic started, I started this company because I realized that there were more people than just hotel folks that needed to hear good messages of inspiration. So I want people to know that I come from the world of sales. So I understand part of at least what most of your listeners, what their background might be.
Well, I appreciate that background, and you even you read my mind, because I was going to ask you to share a little bit about your background, but I'm inspired to ask you one step further, and that is help those of us who maybe don't understand that world of whether you might call it selling luxury services and or hospitality. What do you think makes selling in that industry particularly unique, just in the sales industry in general?
Yeah. When you're selling hospitality, you're selling hotel rooms, you're selling experiences. You're selling experiences more than you are hotel rooms. And it's a feeling that people are going to get. And you can just kind of explain it this way. Let's say a Ritz-Carlton hotel average rate might be $1,200. What are you getting for that? You're getting a room, you're getting a bed, you're getting a television, you're getting a phone, you're getting a shower, bathroom. Great. You could spend $39 and get a room also in perhaps even the similar location. But what is the difference? It's not about the things. It's about the safety, the security, the comfort, the experiences, and the feelings that people are going to get. It's not, I need a burger, I'm hungry, you have a burger, great, we're done. It is, I have an opportunity to stay out of my home, which is not always comfortable. I'm staying out of my home. And I'm doing that for a reason, whether I'm traveling on business or leisure or pleasure with family. I'm doing that for a reason. And what I'm hoping to get is a new feeling, a new sensation, and new memories. That's what hospitality sales is all about. It's not about the room, and it's about how you're being treated and about the service element. And I can go on, but that in a nutshell is kind of what it is. It's the feeling that the seller has the ability to generate for the person that's receiving it.
Yeah. Well, and what goes through my mind, Bart, in listening to what you just said, I do think that applies to those of us in the software sales, tech sales world, because, and I say this frequently, what you sell is actually not what people are buying. Yeah. Right? The thing that you sell is not what actually people are striving for or desiring. Right. I think the more we can keep that in mind, the more likely we are to communicate in such a way that resonates with our customers. By the way, Bart, as people chime in, I'm inspired to just say hello. So Ron Whitson, someone who's become a friend and colleague. Good to see you. Ron's down in Dallas. He, Bart, will soon be an author as well. In fact, where's his book? His book is right. His book is soon to be published. Ron, I'm throwing you a bone here. A Friendly Human in Pre-Sales. So it's coming out soon. And Clifford Barcliff, he's actually a local guy. He's I think down in the Richmond area. Good to see you, Clifford. And Kathy Sizemore, selling the tree, not the shovel. Well said, Catherine. That's my golden rule of selling software. So Bart, with your permission, I'm inspired to just flip through and find one of your pages. And so folks, if you've not read Bart's book, let me just explain how he wrote this book. Literally every page is a story and then a key takeaway that ends with most people don't, and then he gives the story. This one is a cheeseburger without cheese. Do you care to elaborate on a cheeseburger? What's the story? And then what's the key takeaway?
Of course. And thank you, Chris, for being supportive of the book. What is unique, I think, about the book, and I'll share a backstory on how the book came to be, because Chris, I don't even think I shared it with you, but when I was with Ritz-Carlton for a time, I was also a recruiter for sales and marketing. And they felt that getting exposure out for me as a recruiter would be helpful in all social media channels. So we were approached by Hotels Magazine to be part of their blog series. So every single week, in fact, twice a week for 15 years, I wrote a story. What was interesting is that they weren't hotel related at all. They were stories about going above and beyond, doing what most people don't do. And that was my belief and my philosophy. And it was very special. People from all over the world started reading these stories and then commenting. So I heard at one point from a gentleman who owned a juice bar in India that said, "We got your book. I ordered it for my whole team. And once a week, we share your stories at our team meeting." So like, who knew about this, the impact? Anyway, a friend of mine said, "Your stories are really cool. Why don't you put your favorite stories into a book?" And that's how it essentially happened. And it's been described as a cross between Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes.
Right. The story about the mouse and dealing with situational things. And then also an episode of Seinfeld, meant to be somewhat comedic, but also easy to remember. Going to the cheeseburger without cheese. It's simply a story of this. Imagine you are the customer, you go into a restaurant and you order a cheeseburger without cheese. The next question would be, what would you hope the response would be from your server? What would you want it to be? And as I share often in workshops and on stage, this question, people immediately are drawn to, well, you're ordering a hamburger. So you want a hamburger. Yes, but that's not how we want to treat customers. If I want to order a cheeseburger without cheese, a better response would be, would you like fries with that? Can I bring you a soda? How would you like that cheeseburger without cheese done? What type of bun would you like on your cheeseburger without cheese? And that's simply the philosophy, and the takeaway is treat customers the way they want to be treated. Don't correct them. They're not wrong. That's the whole point. And I was at a luncheon a couple of weeks ago, and a very special client was sitting across from me, and she ordered what she thought was a Caesar salad with chicken. Well, it comes and it doesn't have chicken on it. And so she asked the server, I ordered it with chicken. Would you mind? And he corrects her. No, I asked you if you wanted chicken on it, and you didn't answer me. So you ordered it wrong. It's like, how is that making anyone feel good? Just so sorry. Let me get you what you want. That's how we should be treating and reacting to any kind of customer. It's how they want to do, as long as it's legal, as long as it's within our values. And then that aligns with how you can apply that, Chris. And I know you didn't ask me that question, but imagine this. You get a phone call from a customer, and they leave you a message and they would like you to call them back. Well, let me just send them a text. Well, let me just send them an email. So sorry, I missed your message, and let me know when you can. No, if they call me back. I'm getting a lot. I'm getting so many responses recently. I presented at a kindness conference 2 weeks ago, and these were for an exceptional group of travel advisors. Chris, and to your listeners, they love communicating via Facebook. They get most of their leads via Facebook. They're out there saying, I have travel advisory services. I'm a travel agent. I can help you with your cruises, your hotel, your flights, your vacations. Great. So now I have to understand how to respond to, and I'm not very good at it yet, but on Facebook, because that's the cheeseburger without cheese. The clients want to do business a certain way. Don't correct them. Don't push them in. You're going to encourage them to buy, of course, but don't tell them how they should buy.
Yeah.
So that's a quick story.
Well, and I think one of the things, if I recall from your book, that you parlayed that into also is we feel like people should want to buy for our reasons and or like the way we think, not necessarily. And I love the example you gave here was that I guess you had a colleague who was working with maybe an event director or event organizer that insisted that rather than saying theater style seating, she insisted on saying classroom style without the tables, which means theater seating.
Yeah.
Basically just rows of tables. But she insisted that no, it's not theater seating. In her mind, theater seating, for whatever reason, was different than classroom style without the tables.
Yes.
Okay, fine. If you want to call it classroom style without the tables, great. We're happy to oblige. Now, behind the scenes, I'm going to tell my people, set it up as theater seating, right?
Yes.
But to the customer, we're going to make sure that she understands that she's going to get classroom style without tables. Right. Yeah.
And Chris, it relates back to, your world and what you and your team are doing about sales tech and sales tech advisors. You are essentially interpreting certain things from a technical lens to be able to help sellers sell and present it better. You are doing the interpretation. I think that's when I had you on my show that we were talking about. It's the interpretation of things. So we can interpret, but we don't need to correct, I guess is the thing. We need to interpret to make sure that we're explaining in a way that makes sense, but we don't need to correct. You didn't order it with chicken. You're telling me you want a hamburger. So essentially you're saying you just want theater? No. It's however the customer wants to do business and needs to understand. Different people, different buyer personas, they have different capacities. And probably that person that ordered the cheeseburger without cheese, maybe they were from Europe and that's how they have to order it. right? Maybe
Right.
they've had a bad experience before. Who knows?
Or
Who knows?
maybe they have some perception that you do something different with the cheeseburger. I still want a cheeseburger. I just don't want it with cheese. And in their mind, that's different than a hamburger.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, because I do want the pickle, the lettuce, and the onions on it, but I just don't want the cheese. And regularly, a hamburger where I come from just comes with exactly right. And that's also then seek to understand. It's not about us and how we want to present something. It's how the buyer wants it, how our customers want it, how our clients need it. And that's what I've done for most of my life from a career in hospitality sales. And now we're sharing it that the way that we were approaching things, it makes sense. It's a service delivery aspect of selling. It's coming from the heart. So we even have this title for one presentation called Heart and Sold. It's emotional connection with individuals, but it's certainly a fun example, Chris. Thank you for bringing it up.
Love that. And by the way, Bart, just inspired to say or acknowledge some of the comments. Scott Taylor, Karen. I don't know if I'm going to say Rydell, and I'm not sure. You might be able to pronounce what she put in there. That doesn't Casio e Pepe without the Pepe.
So I'm guessing they just want the Casio, right?
Just the Casio, exactly. Yes, bad customer. And I love what Clifford just said. Maybe they didn't see the burger only option on the menu, right? Yeah. Let's not play mind reader. So Bart, we're going to continue sort of this random sort of selection, but this is I actually could not have landed on a better place, and this was completely and totally random. So this is page 97, and it says the truth about your life in sales. The truth about your life in sales. And anybody who's listened to any of my workshops, attended any of my workshops, or listened to some, I love, quote, the truth, because if it's truth, it's indisputable. So where are you? And this has something to do. This story has something to do with an email that you received from Dickinson and Associates, a management consulting team firm based in Chicago. Do you care to elaborate on this story and what's the point here?
Yeah, remind me a little bit more, Chris, if you don't mind.
It says, stop asking great questions and start being interested. A sales meeting isn't the invasion of Normandy. Stop overthinking and overplanning the conversation. Humans want to be heard and understood.
Yeah. So the truth in sales is be yourself and be authentic. And you don't need to be, I know people will say you need to be a chameleon. And as I say that, I see a little salamander walking on the wall. That is the weirdest thing in the world, Chris. And I'm in Northern Virginia.
You can't make this stuff up.
No, that's so strange. You don't need to be a chameleon. You need to be authentic, and you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be you. And those elements, I think it takes some time to learn, unless you're wanting to learn from people like you, from people like me, that the most important part of sales is just being yourself. I might not know all the answers. I'm going to say the wrong words. I'm going to make up words sometimes, but I'm going to laugh at myself, and I'm going to say, gosh, I don't even know if that was a word, because I'm perfectly imperfect, but I'm myself and I'm authentic. And I'll never forget, Chris, and to your listeners, one of my first experiences as a salesperson, I was working at the Hyatt in Pittsburgh, and I had a very important client, head of a union organization. And we got together. It was about 11 o'clock. So it was a late breakfast. And the gentleman ordered a Bloody Mary with breakfast. And at this point, I'm 22 years old, fresh out of school, first job. I don't even know what's in a Bloody Mary. I wasn't a big drinker, but I thought to myself, well, I need to be a chameleon, because that's what people told me to do. I need to be a chameleon. So I don't know what's in a Bloody Mary, so I'm not going to order that, but I'm going to get a beer. So here we are, 11 o'clock. I'm getting scrambled eggs and a beer, because I thought I needed to be a chameleon. If he's drinking alcohol, I'm going to drink alcohol. And I share that story because that's just ridiculous. Who would get a light beer with scrambled eggs and bacon and hash browns? It is just the silliest thing. So listen to this and share it with your newcomers and people that you are mentoring. Just be yourself. You don't need to be perfect. Be perfectly imperfect. Just be you. If you don't know the answer, that's okay. And how often are we getting calls from people that are trying to sell to us? And Chris, this is certainly a hot button of mine. I will connect with a lot of folks, almost 15,000 folks on LinkedIn. And I will say yes. But if I get the next email response, are you interested in buying a list of travel advisors for your direct marketing campaign? No. If I say yes, I don't want to get you. We're going to help you with revenue generating because you're a coach. Well, that's not my full-time business. Would you like to start a sandwich franchise? You don't know anything about me, so you have not earned the right to be able to ask those questions. And it's also the people that call you up and like, hey, Chris, how are you today? Hey, Chris, how are you today? You don't know me. You don't know me. Chris, my name is Bart. I'm local. We are connected on LinkedIn. I'm the founder of a company called Most People Don't. I wanted to see if I could chat with you about doing some partnering things. I see that you wrote a book. So did I. Could we set up a call to have a discussion? So much different, so much different. So the truth is the authenticity, and it's not just what you say, but it's how you are saying it and how you're behaving. Probably more than you wanted to hear for that topic.
No, it's perfect. And I mean, you and I have discussed this before. I mean, the way we think about selling and sales is so similar. And I'll even take it sort of one half step further. I believe that humans buy from people buy from people, period. And we need to be human in our job, yes, and human in our role. And we can't be human if we're not being authentic, if we're not being our authentic selves. Right. And by the way, Bart, I'm inspired to call. So I mentioned my friend Ron's book, which is about to come out in about a month. And he writes about, quote, 7 timeless behaviors. Behavior number 1 is literally be authentic. Wow. Like that's literally the first chapter or the first behavior that he writes about. And I love this quote that he has from Oscar Wilde: be yourself. Everyone else is taken.
Great. Love it. And congrats on the book. That's amazing. And his name is Ron? Ron
Whitson.
All right, Ron. Way to go, Ron.
I'm sure you'll be hearing from him at some point after this conversation. Okay, I just flipped through another through to another page, and this one caught my eye, and I love this idea, and I also love the key takeaway: airing clean laundry at work. Airing clean laundry at work. And the story has something to do with a few nights that you and your family spent at Deep Creek Lake. You remember the story? Do you care to share?
Keep reminding me. It's coming back. I have like over 1,500 stories, so bear with me. So
this particular weekend occurred in a late summer night after a busy season. We found much of the staff to be worn out and tired after a hectic summer. A server at a restaurant actually yawned and sat next to us to take our order. Yeah.
If individuals, and this comes from all different elements, whatever you are doing, do your best and do your best consistently. This goes back to the service element, the customer. We were the customer. This person was tired. We don't need to hear it or see it, because then we're going to feel bad. And when we are the customer, and when you are selling to a customer, just like the cheeseburger without cheese, you don't want to correct them and you don't want to make them feel bad. I will never forget, there's a more recent story, Chris. There was a more recent story. I was at a doctor's office, and very, very thin walls. And I heard them talking, and it was the physician's assistant with the doctor. And it said I heard them say, the guy in room 6 doesn't want to have a certain test done, doesn't want to have a certain blood test done. The guy in room 6 doesn't want to have blood tests done today. And then they opened up the door, and the doctor came in, and I said, hey, I'm the guy in room 6 that doesn't want to have the blood work done today. Thin walls. Don't air your dirty laundry. The guy, I don't know why he's saying it, but the guy in room 6 doesn't, like, are you kidding me? And then I heard them talking about a different patient that was the patient before me in room 6. The woman in room 6 was just so off her rock. Like, just don't air your laundry, right?
Don't air dirty laundry.
No, I mean, don't air it. It can stay within. Stay within. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, and it's so, I mean, and again, Bart, I mean, so many of our ideas are so similar. So the key takeaway was, quote, most people don't perform like they're on stage.
Yeah.
And this is something that I talk about all the time. When there's a difference between backstage conversations and on stage conversations.
Yeah.
And I tell all the people that I work with, if you are dealing with a customer, you are on stage.
Yes.
Period. Right.
Yes.
We have to put our best foot forward on behalf of the company, on behalf of the product, on behalf of ourselves, on behalf of our colleagues.
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time. And Chris, when you own your own company, like you do, and like I do, and like many of your listeners do, then you are the brand representation of you. Here's another little story, Chris, that aligns with that. Just because the values that were represented in that book are my values. I noticed it for a certain reason. And then as we progress 10 years later, 5 years later, there's more stories that I can insert. Think about this. How do you feel when you see a uniformed airline employee on a plane that is in first class and being treated better than everyone else? Think about that. Yeah. An airline employee could be a flight attendant, could be a pilot, could be, I don't know what other titles there are, but a uniformed airline employee in first class being treated better than everyone else.
Yeah.
Then how are they going to behave, first of all? And here I am, let's say I'm Global Services and I was on the upgrade list, but I missed it by one. And I'm all about treating our employees well, but it's just a little bit strange, I think, when you're uniformed. I know you are a uniformed flight attendant and you're in first class and you ran out of water for everyone else, but you're getting a special liter of water and you're getting 14 little Jack Daniel bottles. And I'm making up some of this. But then also when you hear then conversations, how is that flight attendant going to be talking to the next flight attendant next to them? Yeah. I can't believe, and that happens all the time, right? And let's say someone is in first class and I'm not in first class and they, put the little sheet up, the little mosquito net, thinking that is going to be a sound barrier. And then you hear people complaining about, especially back of the plane, I can't believe this passenger did this. I can't believe we had this horrible delay. I can't believe we didn't make it. Like, just don't air your dirty laundry at work. Keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself. Shut the door. Write it down. Pass notes, but it's going to make people feel bad.
Well, and to apply this or turn this into the context that should resonate with the folks that I work with a lot. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of demos. We do a lot of customer presentations.
Yes.
And here's the truth. We're not going to love everything about our product. Mm-hmm. We're not going to love everything about our company all the time.
Right.
We're not always going to be thrilled with our sales counterparts. But none of that comes to the surface when we're presenting to a customer.
No.
Right?
Let me walk you through a little demo here, Chris. And you know what? I told them to fix this, but they didn't fix it yet. It's such a stupid thing. They could fix it in a heartbeat, but you know what? They haven't fixed it yet. But let me continue with the demo. And some of these things are good, and some I know they're getting. Don't, right? Just exactly. Don't, right? Don't. Exactly. Again, a good reminder, isn't it, for all of us?
Yeah, yeah. And when I think the reason that happens is we put our own ego before the best interest of the customer.
Yes.
Right?
And do we think that by showing what we believe is truth, is that going to make us appear to be more authentic? And will that get people to like us more? I don't know. My company, I sell cars. I'm just making this up. I sell cars, and there's always a $699 processing fee. I don't know why they do it, but you know what? I'm going to get it waived for you. I don't know if that's a selling tactic or not. I've never sold cars before, but I'm just trying to think of, well, why would people air their dirty laundry at work other than trying to make themselves feel better?
Yeah.
But it's not helping the good of the brand or the company or truly of themselves. And if that their authentic self is negative, you probably don't want to be working with them anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Incredibly well said. Bart, allow me to push our pause button just for a moment. Folks, I'm speaking to Bart Berkey. He is the author of a book called Most People Don't and Why You Should. He also has a podcast of the same name, happens to be one of the most long-running and popular podcasts on the planet. He's an international speaker. He's a former TEDx speaker, and he's sharing some of the stories that he wrote about in the book and some of the lessons. Bart, there was one story that you read that really struck a chord with me, or one story that you wrote rather, that really struck a chord with me. And it was you were sharing your experience in high school as both a basketball player and a volleyball player.
Mm-hmm.
And you had a very different experience from each coach. And as a result of the one experience from one coach, you went in one direction with your athletic career rather than the other. Do you care to tell a little bit about that story and what is the most people don't takeaway?
Yeah, I believe that the carrot or the stick, leadership, carrot or the stick. And just thinking back on it, when I played basketball, middle school and high school, the coach was very, very demanding. He did not make it fun. If he thought we were goofing around, he would make us run lines until someone threw up. And this is not an exaggeration. It was just a toxic environment for a sport, especially in high school. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be enjoyable. It was not fun. I had to make a decision that I wanted to try volleyball, and I did volleyball at the same time in middle school. And then in high school, our coach allowed us to have fun. It was a fun game. It was a fun sport. He laughed with us. He taught us extremely well. Shout out to Coach Mike Larko from Plum outside of Pittsburgh. But he created an environment that it was enjoyable. You looked forward to going every single day, not only for the sport, not only for the fun of the sport, but also for his leadership, and then also for the camaraderie with your teammates. And I think that that's a valuable lesson from a leadership lens, and also from a selling lens. Are we leading people the right way? Are we recognizing them the right way? Or are we making people cry? And I think that's a really good leadership lesson. I think about some of the best leaders I've ever worked with. And I'll give a shout out to my friend John Harper with Marriott International Luxury Brands. He could come up with the worst outcome, but still not make people feel bad about it. Like sometimes you have to deliver bad news. He would not make people cry. And if he said, I need to meet with you Friday at 4:00, your heart wasn't pounding like, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. Should I get ready for anything? Or he was just always very fair and real. And you knew what you could expect. He would not make you cry, and he would be empathetic. Just a very good lesson. How are you leading people? And I guess also, Chris, from this sense and from a selling lens, how are we leading our sales team? And then how are we leading our customers? Are we telling them the benefits of being able to work with us? Or are we telling the negatives of working with the competition? You know, are we looking at their aspirations, or are we looking at their afflictions? There's just two different ways of looking at it. So regardless of what you do in whatever industry you're in, if you're a sales tech advisor, a sales advisor, you want to be, make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. And you want to wake up excited about what you do, and who you do it with, and why you're doing it. And all those three components, if they aligned, oh, you're golden, you're content, and all the successes are going to come from there.
And the rest of the story, as people say, who was the gentleman who used to do was it help me here, Paul something.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
He
had the rest of the story. Yes,
he had a program called "And the Rest of the Story." And the rest of the story for you is you then pursued volleyball. You played volleyball in university at Penn State, and you were part of a team that took third in the NCAA tournament. Is that correct?
Wow. What?
Now, are you going to get out a trophy?
You have done your research. Yes. One of the most valuable things to me, NCAA plaque, 1987, NCAA third place. Yes. And it's because of the environment that coach created. Coach
Well,
Mike Larko played
and
Division I at Penn State.
yeah, and to me, it's all about giving it forward, right, and paying it forward. And we never know, as leaders, we never know what the seeds that we are planting now are going to produce downstream, right? And I know for me, and I would love to hear, I'm sure you've got a few stories. I know for me, there are a couple of people that I have brought into the pre-sales, the technical selling world over my career that are now incredibly successful sales leaders of their own, running their own organizations. And they frequently call me and we just catch up, and they thank me for giving them the shot. And my response is seeing you succeed is one of my most satisfying moments. So do you have any experiences like that?
Yes. When I was, and thank you I want to make sure I'm using pre-sales as well as the word, right? It's not just tech advisors, but the pre-sale element of what you do. I want to make sure that I'm inserting that, because you had explained it very well, what you are teaching. So thank you for reminding me. I often am getting calls from people that I trained from a sales perspective 10 years ago, 12 years ago, people that I had taught or, did like some interim classes at Penn State University. And these are people that are now coming out of the woodwork that are now hiring me, because 10 years later, 12 years later, they're now senior vice president of operations. And they're just like, yeah, Bart, you spoke at my class at Penn State University. Or Bart, the gentleman, Alex with the Opal Group, just called me the other day. He was at my training class, 10 years ago in Cleveland, and now he's responsible for putting together conferences all over the globe. And so I'm seeing things like that, yes, and it makes me feel good, because you don't know the impact that you're going to have on people. Chris, it goes back to that whole authenticity aspect and being kind to people and what your values are, not just as a salesperson, but as a human being. Quick, pull out his book again. As a human, pull out his book again. Where is it?
Yes.
As a human.
A friendly human in pre-sales.
Yes. Yeah, it's right. It's all of those elements. So I've been fortunate to have several people come back around and just to let me know the impact that I had on them, which is just extremely fulfilling. And you don't know how you're going to impact people. But if you are consistent and you're not airing your dirty laundry, and you're kind, and you see something and you do something, and you are doing what most people don't do, and you're trying to be perfectly imperfect and do your best, all of the things that I talk about, then you're going to be able to make an impact on people. One last component, Chris, I wanted to share with you. When I was playing at Penn State, I played for 1.5 years, and there's a story that goes along with that. But one of the years we were able to have a few of the old jerseys from prior seasons. And the seniors got their first choice, and the juniors, and then I was a sophomore at the time, I got a couple of nice old jerseys. And I gave one to my high school coach, to Coach Mike Larko, because I wanted him to know the impact of what he had done for me. And I wasn't even aware of what an impact he had until later. And so that's a reminder for our listeners too, that if there are people that have impacted you at your stage, let them know, right? Call them up. A person, my English teacher, Mrs. Beardshaw, I reached out to her a couple of years ago and sent her a book because she was my English teacher. And she always told me that there was a book inside of me. Those people need to know, right? You had an influence on my life. And Chris, I know you and I had talked about your situation and your personal experiences. Go back to those people that influenced you. And to all of these listeners, go back to them. Pick up the phone, even though it's not comfortable, pick up the phone and say, you might not remember me, but my name is Bart, and you had a major impact on my life 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. That's what it's all about. And
the reason that's so important, Bart, is because most people
don't. Yeah.
Most people don't. But by the way, Ron and Scott filled in the blank. Paul Harvey, thank you. I knew I wasn't taking crazy pills. I knew that it was Paul. So there were two two, I think, key questions that I was still going to ask.
Mhm.
And I thought I was going to go in one order, but I'm going to change up the order, because hearing what you were just saying about being authentic and being yourself and be kind and be genuine. Many of the things that we've been talking about, many of the things that are in your book seem so obvious. And I suspect anybody listening to this or anybody catching the recording is probably saying, well, I mean, these are all just sort of obvious things. I mean, there's no rocket science here. And by the way, they're 100% right. It is common sense, but it's not common practice.
Wow. Love that. Why is it not common practice?
That's my question for you is, why is it that the things that you wrote about, most people don't? Do you think?
Yeah, and I'll share. And also, I want people to know one of the reasons why I wrote the book and one of the reasons why I observe these things. It is my mantra. It is my reminder to do what most people don't do. At this kindness conference, we did an acronym. K stands for being kind over right. I stands for include others. N stands for being neighborly. It's a reminder for me, one, so it's helping me grow. I was walking the dogs the other day, and you carry I can say it, I guess, the waste bags with you. And I have two dogs, and they needed me to clean up their waste. Great. And it happened to be trash day. And right around the corner, everyone had their trash cans out. But I knew if I kept on walking about a half mile, there's a general trash receptacle for the county. Great. I was tempted, because who wants to carry a poop bag around longer than they should? But I thought, and being neighborly, is that really being kind? If I put, even if it's contained, if I put that bag into someone else's trash can, what if it breaks? What if it wouldn't be very neighborly of me. So it's a reminder for me, right, to keep on doing. To get back to your question, Chris, there was a study done in Europe, and they watched 27,000 people make a decision between taking the stairs versus riding the escalator. You had a choice. Only 1% of people would choose to walk up the stairs. They were interviewed, and they said to the people that took the stairs, why? And they said there was some motivational factor, namely either they had a health scare or someone in their family had a health scare. There was rationale. There was a reason behind doing something. Great. The people that chose to ride the escalator, and these were people that weren't on crutches, they weren't on wheelchairs, they weren't carrying too many bags, they were physically able, apparently, to be able to make a choice. The 99% of people that rode the escalator said that it was easier and that they were lazy. I think often human beings have the tendency to want to take the easier route. And the easier route, the easier path, and you can tell by the identifier and the picture on the cover of the book, Chris, you have two paths to take. One is going to be the road less traveled, but it'll be the better one. And there was a great author that wrote that. We're going to have to look for some notes. Who said that? The path less taken. I don't know if it was Emerson or someone, but right, you have a choice to take. And because it was easier, think about weight loss these days. You could take a pill, you could get an Ozempic shot, you could get whatever kind of shot, and that's easier than going to the gym and exercising and being disciplined. I believe that people have the propensity to want to go the easier route. So to continue with this story, maybe they didn't realize the benefits of taking the stairs. So this study put up signs. If you take the stairs, it's better for your heart. It's better for your cardiovascular system. You can get the blood pumping. You're going to burn more calories. You're going to help save energy. And that only increased the people taking the stairs up to 3%. Last thing they did, they changed the staircase and they put piano keys, massive piano keys like you would see from the movie Big, but they placed them on the piano keys on the stairs, on the steps. So every time someone would take a step on the stair, it would elicit a piano sound. That increased participation to 66%.
Wow.
Because it was fun. So if you think about inherently, people are not going to do things because they're hard, because they don't see the benefit, because it's not fun, we could probably then encourage us to do things if they are more fun. So what can we do that we don't like to do that we know we should do? How can we make it more fun? There's 1,000 different ideas. How can we make it more interesting? And how can we realize the benefits of doing something? And how can we feel the benefits, that the benefits are great enough? And I share this quote that if the why is important enough, the how becomes easy. So if your determination, if the reasoning is important enough, you'll be able to figure it out. The reason why I take the stairs is that I had a massive heart attack 5 years ago. And I'm telling people to do. That's why I take the stairs. It's a great reminder. Well, what else can we do that we don't like to do that we know would be better for us? Have better relationships with your family. Great. Well, how can you do that? And I'll share a little secret, if you don't mind, Chris, for your listeners.
Please.
And I learned this from Marshall Goldsmith. Instead of, let's say, and I've done I have over 10,000 studies, 10,000 responses to a study done. And I ask individuals, what is one personal should do that no one is telling you to do, but in your heart and your mind, you know you want to do it? What is one should do? Overwhelmingly, people say, I want to focus in on fitness, on my own health. That's the number one thing they know they should do. Marshall Goldsmith, the author of Triggers and many other books, he talks about simply doing your best and evaluating it on a 7-day basis, even on a 30-day basis. Keep track of it. And this is what I've been doing. If I know that I want to focus in on fitness, today being Wednesday, August 7th, I'm not going to put my should do is to lose 30 pounds, because I'm not going to be able to check that off until I lose 30 pounds, which might be 6 months from now, might be a year from now. It's not really enticing me. So if you change it to do my best, my should do is to focus on fitness and focus in on my well-being. And all I have to do today is to do my best. And if I can do my best today, you give yourself a 1 or an A. And if you feel that you didn't do your best, you give yourself a 0 or an F. But you keep track of that for 7 days or for 30 days. What happens then is I can do my best today to focus on my fitness by eating 1 cookie instead of 7. That could be, yes, I did my best. I walked the dogs to the corner today, but yesterday I didn't. So today I did my best. And that takes the pressure off. And think about that from a sales lens, Chris. Yes, you have a goal to make, right? As pre-sale professionals, pre-sale tech advisors, professionals, you probably have goals to make. But just think about, did I do my best to make effort toward that goal? Didn't need to get it done today, but did I do my best? Did I call the right people? Did I interact with them the way that they would want to be interacted? Did I provide solutions? Was I my authentic self? And all of these things, and people need to take some pressure off themselves. If you did your best, that's all you can do for today. Tomorrow's a different day. Do your best tomorrow. That's it. That's it. And that kind of really tries to oversimplify, but do your best. And the reason why most people don't do certain things is that it's harder. It's difficult. They don't see the immediate benefits. It's not as fun. They think someone else is going to do it. But here's the trick. When you do take action, whether it's doing something for yourself or doing something for someone else, you are going to feel better. You're going to take that pressure off and you're going to feel better. That's a nice, selfish way to be able to receive the benefits of taking action. When I didn't put that poop bag into my neighbor's trash can and I walked an extra half mile, I felt good. When I phoned a client that sent me an email and gave me their phone number, I felt good about it. And they were shocked that I called them back right away. Those are when I'm connecting with people on LinkedIn and the comments that you're getting, that people didn't have to share that. People don't need to be listening to a 49-minute, 24-second call on a Wednesday afternoon, but they are, because they're going to get the benefit. Even if they take one different idea, I'm not going to air my clean laundry at work. I'm not going to correct a customer. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to understand my why, and I'll figure out how to be able to do it. It's easy to be, but it's better to become. I'm going to do what most people don't do. I'm going to interact with customers the way they want to be interacted with. All of these things, not just from a sales lens, Chris, but just from a life perspective, right? We're going to become better people. Once we're better people, we can become better professionals, whether it's a pre-sale person, a tech advisor person, a global salesperson, a luxury salesperson, a trainer, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Holy cow. I just spilled my whole heart out to everybody.
I just wanted to get out of the way and let you run. Let you run. I mean, that was 5 or 7 of the best minutes I've had this year. So, and you know, there's a few things that you said that I'm so inspired to double click on. There's a question that I learned to ask myself arguably decades ago, and it's right in line with what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And it is this: what will I wish I had done when I reflect on this decision?
Yes.
What do I wish, or what will I wish I had done? Right?
Yeah.
That's
powerful.
That's a different way to look at it than what do I want to do?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So how will I feel if I didn't do something, the fear of regret?
Yeah.
And how will I want to look back on a situation? Did I handle it well? Did I handle it with grace? Was I too emotional? Was I not emotional enough? And think about, I love this. And another friend of mine had shared, Chris, along the lines of, let's say you do have a regret on how you handled it. Will it bother you for 5 seconds, for 5 minutes, for 5 hours, for 5 days, for 5 months, for 5 years? Like, how bad is the regret? And if you do, and you do your best, you probably shouldn't have much regret. Right? If you're living by your values, I love that approach, Chris. I'm gonna incorporate that into my own heart as well. Thank you.
What do I? Well, and here's, you know, it's. I mean, Bart, you and I could talk. I feel like you and I could talk all day, and I do want to be respectful of your time. I'll just share a few more thoughts. Here's the unfortunate truth. We were talking about truth. Here's the unfortunate. In fact, I attended a talk, probably a gentleman not entirely unlike you and me, who was giving a talk, and he introduced this idea that many of my clients have heard me use before, because I adopted it, called bummer dudes. And he said, you know, there's just a lot of bummer dudes in this world. And I had the same look that you had on your face when I first started. I was like, bummer dude, what's a bummer dude? And he said, you know, you're walking down the street, you bump into a friend, like, hey man, how you doing? And he or she says, well, you know, I just had a wreck. My car's in the shop. Like, bummer dude. Right. There's a lot of and he said, here's one of the unfortunate bummer dudes in our world, in our lives. People will hurt you. Bummer dude. And you will hurt others. Bummer dude. I mean, it's just fact of life. Right. Yeah. So if you've done something, and going back to your idea of regret, if you've done something and you regret it, again, is this a 5-second regret, a 5-minute regret? Yeah. But if it's a big regret, here's the truth. We can't go back and change what has happened. Yes. We can only do our best to make reparations, to apologize to the best we can, and to learn from it and be a better person moving forward. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So Chris, along those lines, and I love that. I have a question though. Is bummer dude how we respond to it? How we react to it? Something happened. It's horrible. Bummer dude. Like,
it's to me so I think you're the only one who's ever asked me what really is a bummer dude. I think a bummer dude is a fact of life that stinks and there's nothing we can do about it.
Yes.
That's a bummer dude.
And then it's up to how, it sucks, right? It sucks. Things happen and we have to deal with it. And Chris, along those lines, I know we're in Olympic season, and I saw a social media post by an Olympic athlete. And she said, after participating in the games, I think she was a beach volleyball player. She said, it's not about talent. Being successful in the Olympics is not about talent. It is how you respond. And think about bummer dude. Bummer dude. Things are going to happen to us. And I share this philosophy of being bamboo. And one of the stories, and I think it's in the book, is about, imagine a windstorm is coming and you could be protected by oak trees or by bamboo. If you choose oak trees are going to resist and fight the wind and topple over and break. But if you think about bamboo, very strong, very protective, very resilient and regenerative, it's a grass. And what does it do in the wind? It bends in the wind. Yet it provides amazing. Right. So hashtag Be Bamboo. We have t-shirts, Be Bamboo. It's so fun. People are adopting that thought.
Love that.
But I guess, bummer, dude, things are going to happen. Things happen to everybody. We need to understand that things are happening. It's how we choose to, of course, respond to it, and then how to be able to move forward. And that's the thing. Oh, and one other thing, and I thought you were going to go this lens about when people are saying, well, how are you? Oh, this is happening. And so it's so sad. And, this didn't work out and we didn't get this contract. Part of it is the words that we say to ourselves will impact how we are, especially from a pre-sale advisor role, a tech sales advisor role, an advisor role, a salesperson role. My coordinator lives internationally, and she sends me a message every morning, and she asks, how are you? Good morning. How are you? And the other day I was not having a good morning. So I started to type in terrible. So TER, and all of a sudden my phone auto-corrected, gave me a choice, right? It's going to pre-populate terrible or it's going to pre-populate terrific. And I chose to click on terrific.
Love that.
That made a difference in my day. The simplest thing, the easiest thing. I chose to be terrific instead of terrible. And the next time someone asks you, Chris, how are you? Respond. Don't respond good. Don't respond okay. Don't respond great. You should respond, I could not be any better.
Yeah.
I am.
And that's all. By the way, that's always true.
Yeah. Couldn't be better. Right? Couldn't be better. I have no regrets. I have no regrets.
I love that. Well, and you use the operative word, which is choice. Yes. And as I reflect on what you write about in the book, most people don't, and why you should, they're not skills, they're decisions. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes. Never thought of that.
They're decisions.
Amazing. Yes. Wow. Right. They are decisions. Yes. And as each person has the ability to decide on their own, if everyone decides to do something to do, and someone was asking me, what do I hope most people don't becomes? I hope it becomes all people do. That's good. Individual decisions, all people do. I'm going to change the name and give me at least another year. Okay.
I love that. Bart, this has been so much fun. Again, I mean, here we've been at it for 57 and a half minutes, and I feel like we could go for another 57 and a half minutes without batting an eye. You did leave me hanging on one thing. You said kind is an acronym, kind over nice, inclusive, neighborly, but I don't think you shared the D. Did you, and I missed it?
No. That's okay. So part of the conference, I had these created, and Chris, whenever I see you, I'm going to have to give you one.
Okay.
Kind over right. Include others. The first N was notice. Sorry.
I love that. Okay.
Notice, do your best. Neighborly. So it was the second N.
You see something, do, spread, and share. Love that. Okay. So I need to get a copy of that.
An acronym that goes along with the stories. So yeah, it's actually kindness.
Kindness.
The second N was neighborly. The first N was notice, which then leads to notice, observe, anticipate, and over deliver, which we can do for our customers, we can do for each other, and so many other stories. Chris, there's an opportunity next month. I am speaking locally in conjunction with United Charitable. I can send you the details. It's September 18th out in Loudoun County. I know you have listeners from all over the globe, but I just thought of that. I'm not meaning to promote it right now, but it's a not-for-profit event.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned it. Send me the information. In fact, I might post it in the link. I know I am on the road for the first 3 weeks of September, so unfortunately I will not be there. But I know you and I are going to have the chance to reconnect on more than one occasion. Bart, I do want to wrap things up. It's been an hour. I want to be respectful of your time. I also want to be cognizant of our listeners. Another gentleman who is part of our quote 6 Habits certified community, Asif, has thanked us for the conversation. Asif, appreciate your comments. Elfaz. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Thank you, Elfaz, and anyone else who happened to join us today. Thank you so much. More importantly, Bart, thank you for being here, sir. Any final words in closing as we wrap things up?
Just if you want more information on the services that we provide, not publicizing it, but most people don't, all one word.com. That's where you can find the link of my podcast, in which I did have the pleasure of interviewing Chris several weeks ago. Has great resources and a lot of fun commentary and just good ideas. So, and then follow me, of course, Bart Berkey. I'm the only Bart Berkey in the world, Chris. Kind of cool. But thank you for having me on your show. Thanks for what you're doing for the sales industry, the pre-sale group, the tech advisor group. You are a remarkable individual, and I'm so glad that we now know each other.
Yeah, thank you for those kind words, and thank you for being here. This has been a ton of fun. I have a feeling we may be doing this again. For those of you who hung around this long, thank you so much. Of course, you can always go to techsalesmastery.com to learn more about what we do. And of course, follow #TechSalesAdvice on LinkedIn to get notified for these. Bart, hang around backstage just for a moment as we say a few parting words. To everyone else, I will be back next week with another episode of Tech Sales Advice. Thanks all.